If your SaaS looks like every other boring startup, your users will forget you in seconds. The fact is, it's not just enough to have a snappy name, you also have to have memorable branding. Your colors and your fonts have to make you stand out. And I've seen firsthand how good design choices and good branding choices can increase your conversions, lower your churn rate, and even earn you funding. So today, we're gonna be going over the ultimate easy guide to SaaS, colors, and fonts, showing you exactly how step by step we can do this. So let's go ahead and do some samples, getting right into it. So the first thing we're going to jump right into is color theory and choosing a color that actually communicates the subtle messaging of your brand before you actually go and say anything, before the person even sees the title. They are going to see this logo first. So in this example, I've just pulled a little, image of a bank here, and we're going to do some sort of financial technology company. So let's say, for example, this is a robo-advisor or stock trading app like Robinhood or Wealthfront or any one of those ones. And now we want to choose our color scheme that subtly indicates our branding to our potential customers before we even show them our title, show them what we're all about. We just need to show them what we are and who we are in the first glimpse. So the question becomes, which of these icons would be seen as the best for our particular type of company, a financial tech SaaS? So to answer that question, I think we pretty much have to get rid of the ones that wouldn't apply. And so the questions I'm asking myself are, who would I want to trust with my money? Well, I'll tell you who I wouldn't want to trust with my money. I wouldn't want to trust this big, bright lime color over here. Orange feels too like Nickelodeon. So we're going to get rid of those ones. And now we can see here that just by eliminating what doesn't feel right, the collection of icons that I'm left with and the colors that are associated with them are in the same type of feeling. This is one of the biggest things that you'll notice for your SaaS when you actually start designing your logos. And that's, you're going to notice that subtly you'll be getting rid of colors that you just don't like for whatever reason. We know that blue is typically associated with trustworthiness, reliance, stability. I would eliminate this one. I would eliminate this one. I would eliminate this one. I would eliminate all of them until I got something that was nice and deep in blue. Because when I look at this logo, I look at something that is very deep and trustworthy and has been solidified. So that's one of the things that we want to actually make sure we're doing when we're actually determining the color scheme for our brand. What I want you to notice, however, is that if we now apply that same color that's very strong and trustworthy and dependable that I feel good about to a healthcare icon or maybe a creative icon, all of a sudden that branding doesn't work. It feels out of place. So what would be better here? Would it be the red of a Coca-Cola bottle? Turquoise blue? Now that feels right. Ultimately, at the end of the day, your whole purpose as an entrepreneur is to convince someone that the solution that you are selling them is worth whatever you are selling it for. Basically, if somebody is paying you for some sort of service or some sort of product, they should have to have enough value out of it that they feel whatever they paid was worth it. And the first step you can do to convincing people that whatever they pay is worth it is make them feel comfortable about paying you in the first place. If I see these colors for a particular brand, my brain is already setting expectations about what sort of company they are, what they offer, and what my thoughts are about them, even if I know nothing else about their company. If we then change this up to make these all, bright red, for instance, we make this one, bright red, bright red, bright red. The only one that really still works here is the heart. But if the color and the icon don't match up properly, you're going to be putting people on edge, even if they don't realize it, because they're already going to be subtly making assumptions about what it is you offer. They're going to see this. If I see this icon, I wouldn't think financial services, I would think prison. If I saw this icon, I wouldn't think creative tool for marketers, I would think daycare. And if I saw this, I wouldn't think of some sort of health app, I would think of something like health insurance, because the different branding colors are indicating to me what I should expect from this company. Great. Now that you've got a logo and a color that matches, let's talk about choosing your SaaS's fonts, and specifically the font style you're using for your title. It is very important because, once again, if we have a financial services company, if I say Josh's Investment Services, does this represent financial services? Does this make me confident in whatever I am selling? I could be the best investor in the world. I could generate 1,000% returns. But if this is the font that I'm using to communicate to my potential clients that this is what I'm all about, well, am I going to be able to convince them to give me their investment portfolio to invest on their behalf? No, because this does not say trustworthy. Now, for an enterprise grade SaaS, we want to make sure that people see our company as serious and credible. So how can we choose a font to reflect that? Well, we want to choose serif fonts or geometric sans serif fonts. So we're going to go in here and we're just simply going to type in serif. And we're going to see here that now we have all of these serifs. So let's just choose the first one here, CMU serif. That looks a lot better. This is a lot more in line with what I'm expecting to see for an investment service company. Let's go look at more of them. If we choose, a little bit of a bolder one here, we choose Breeze serif. Again, very trustworthy, very stoic, very dependable. If we choose CS Gordon serif here, and we shrink that down a little bit, again, still very trustworthy and very dependable. Now, if we took that same font and we said Techie Health Services, again, what am I communicating? Am I communicating that this is a fun and upbeat way to learn about your health and track it on the go on your phone? No, I would expect to see this type of font outside of a clinic. So what could I choose instead? Well, if I want something to be fun and exciting, I generally want to go with a rounded sans serif or just generally a sans serif font. But how about Neotech? Neotech looks a lot more in line with what we're doing. If I see this color and I see Techie Health Services, I think to myself that this is probably some sort of health tech startup SaaS thing, whatever. It doesn't matter here. The subtle branding that I'm communicating in this font for this logo versus this font for this logo are great. Now, we've already covered the first two main types of font styles that I like to use. I call them enterprise grade and e-learning grade. And the final one here is called modern, and it's usually used for analytics-based platforms. So we can't actually use this for that example. So let's go here and we'll go to analytics. And we'll say analytics icon. We'll choose, I like this. I think choosing a nice subtle orange here is really the way to go. So again, let's move over and let's choose our font style. So what I'm looking for here is something that is modern. We're looking for a sans serif that is more condensed. So if I type in modern here, now we get something that's more modern. So we got vintage modern, which isn't what I was looking for at all. We have Museo Moderno, which actually works pretty well, but I'm really looking for something that's nice and condensed. Techie Health Services obviously isn't what we want, but what if we say Traffic Analysis LLC? Okay, there we go. This has a completely different vibe from this. This says, you can trust me with your money. This says, this is fun, track your health. And this one says, we store data and we provide useful data to you. You wouldn't expect this to be a B2C, would you? No, because who would be interested in Traffic Data LLC's whatever data if they were a customer? This would typically be somebody who would be selling to other businesses, and that's how they would make their money. Traffic Data LLC would look much different if this was the font size. Now this would be Jimbo's Cotton Candy Stand. So we have Jimbo's Cotton Candy here, and now we make this, like a bright pink. This gives a good vibe for a cotton candy stand. If we made this once again, the Traffic LLC thing with that font, would we think that that is a good font? No. Now let's talk about the list of fonts that you want to avoid at all costs. I could have pulled up a fun graphic that somebody's made a million times before, but I just went to Reddit and I searched up what fonts do people hate. Comic Sans, bangers, they even included a little thing saying, dang, I hate this font so much because it's very overused. Papyrus, there's a whole SNL skit about it. Actually, I think this is the second one now. Trajan, Calibri, Kristen, Century Gothic, Copperplate Gothic, Open Sans, Proxima Nova. All this is a good font. It's a little overused. And what it's about is you want to look at somebody's font for their SaaS, and you don't want the first thing to think of is, oh, I know exactly what website they used to design that. Because if they're thinking about that, they're not thinking about your company, they're not thinking about your brand, they're not thinking about what you could potentially offer them. They're thinking about you in a meta way, and you never want to have that happen. Overusing a font would be the death of your SaaS because the second somebody sees it and they know where it's from, they're not thinking about your company and they are no longer even going to be interested in buying from you. So now that I've schooled you in everything you need to know about colors and fonts, let's go ahead and talk about how you can actually choose a color scheme and a font for your SaaS. The first thing you're going to want to do is go pick not your color. You're going to want to pick your feeling. What is it that you want people to feel when they look at your application? What is it you want them to feel when you were trying to convince them to pay for whatever it is you are selling? Once you've got that feeling, you've got the first step to actually choosing your colors and choosing your font. So step one, I've got my feeling and I want it to be luxury. I want it to be class. I want it to be big ticket money. I'm not talking about it in the financial sense. I'm talking about it in this makes me look rich sense. And for that, we're going to choose the colors yellow or gold and black, and white as well in some cases. But usually yellow and black combined together show luxury. It shows wealth. It shows money. Okay, I like this, but the red isn't really working for me, and neither is the outer space or the eggshell. So what I'm going to do here is just change this color, and we'll make this a slightly off black here. So we'll go to black and we'll choose like a 1F, 1F. Okay, so now we've got that. And we'll move this one over here. And I think for this one, I'm going to do a slightly lighter yellow in this case. So we'll go slightly lighter. And so we'll go black all the way to the lightest here. So I like this. And then we'll change this one so we can actually view the shades. We can make this a slightly lighter shade here. And then now this seems to work. Now this is much more of a color palette that I could use to emanate luxury. We've got our black, we've got our eerie black, we've got xanthos, we've got saffron, and we've got eggshell. This is a great way for me to visualize where I can actually set the header colors, the button text colors, everything. Okay, so now we've got our colors over here on our whiteboard. And now if we bring in things like UI button, for instance, we have a UI button here. Maybe we choose this one. We can see now we can actually make it fit and align with our colors. So we can do things like buttons. We can do things like an input. Oh, make sure it's actually input UI. For input UI, we can see something like this. You see we have our box here, and we can either just choose the white, or we could just choose this color here, taking it from this kind of eggshell color. Okay, we've got that now. What are other things we can add? Well, we could actually add buttons with text. So we could say button with text here. And we have things like book now, connect with us, get a quote, whatever. So we could say get a quote, and say this is for some luxury real estate thing. We could choose, the black. We could choose the off black. We could choose the gold here. Gold doesn't really work for this, but in our case, I'm thinking choosing something like black. Even just typing into Canva here, luxury, what are the colors that we see? We see gold, we see sparkling, we see luxurious. All of these colors and all of these icons, they all show gold and kind of gold gradients and premium, and that is what we're trying to do here. And we can see that now we've created a color palette that actually aligns with that feeling, with that brand. So however we design our user interface, just having these colors set up the way they are, and just having something, a font like this would be great in this instance, that actually aligns with that feeling would mean that people, without even having to see our application, actually get that feeling of what we're all about. If I'm trying to convey luxury, this is the font and color palette I'm trying to do it with. Not this one, but this, premium. And now, just to show you that I actually know what I'm talking about, we're going to go ahead and have Google Stitch actually create a mock user interface for some luxury real estate browsing app, some sort of thing. I don't even know. It doesn't have to be specific. And I'm just going to drop our color palette in here, and I'm going to say mobile app for ultra high net worth luxury real estate listings using the colors in the attached image. And I've attached the image of the colors, and I'm simply going to hit generate designs here. And when you see this user interface, the first thing I want you to ask yourself is, what do you feel? Not about what the company's about or what you think it sells or what you think it stands for. You and I know that it's luxury real estate, but just forgetting all of that, just imagine what you feel. Because here we go. Just looking at this, Lux, the Hillcrest Estate, Beverly Hills, California, $250 million. This app's colors and fonts say luxury. And there we go. Everything you need to know about font selection, colors, and branding for your SaaS. If you want to see more videos like this, I'll leave a link to the design playlist where I do more design-based things related to entrepreneurship and software, but I also handle builds and monetization and tactics and tools on the channel. So if you want to stick around and see more like it, be sure to hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, my name is Josh Mountain, and I'll see you in the next one.